Welcome to the Get Your Pink Back Project. I'm your host, Dr. Christelle Oliver Dussault, and this is your space to pause, breathe, and return to yourself. One story, one insight, one conversation at a time. Let's begin. Welcome to the Get Your Pink Back Project podcast. On today's episode, I'll be talking to Clara. She is a working mum of two, and also a health and fitness coach with a specific focus on women's health and helping women navigate their bodies after becoming mothers. We initially met through the local daycare. Both of our girls go there, and I thought she'd be a really great person to chat to get her perspective on things, and really admire all the work that she does. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as well. I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about who you were before you became a mum.
Okay, so before having my girls, I had been coaching in the health and fitness space for about three to 4 years. And I was competing in bodybuilding shows. So I have competed 2 times, 2016 and 2017. My first daughter was born in 2020. So I basically graduated university. I did have a major in tourism management, a minor in human resources and marketing. And I was kind of like, you know what? I really enjoyed my entrepreneurship classes in university and post-secondary. And I decided that I kind of wanted to combine my passion for health and fitness
Mm-hmm.
business aspect of it. So I was owning and running my own business, Clara Fitness. And yeah, basically just like head first dived into the health and fitness space and industry.
And how did that change when you became a mum?
So it was definitely a really big shift for me. For anyone who has competed before in bodybuilding, or even if you know somebody who has, you know that it's a really big commitment, really big time commitment. I consider it to be a pretty selfish thing to take on as well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, but obviously, it was a lot easier for me to do something like that before becoming a mom. And so also I was working from home primarily. I was doing some in-person training, and then I kind of transitioned to online coaching, which honestly aligned really well with me having my first daughter because I didn't have to worry about having to step away from my in-person clients. I was able to continue working online and just kind of manage my client load a little bit more. But I think just the biggest thing is like prior to having my first daughter, just waking up in the morning and having the entire day ahead of me to
Yeah.
essentially do whatever I needed to do, right? And I think that was also a little bit amplified because I was running my own business. I was working from home. I didn't have to commute to a job at specific set hours or anything like that. I could literally dictate my entire day and what that looked like. So it was a really big transition for me to go from the freedom to essentially do whatever I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do, to all of a sudden, all of my routines kind of revolving around this tiny little human, right?
Yeah. How did you imagine motherhood would be like? Did it align with what you thought it would be, or was it quite different to what you expected?
Think it was what I thought it would be in certain ways, and then other ways I don't think that you can ever really prepare yourself for
Hmm.
the role of becoming a mother until it actually happens. And so there were definitely a lot of aspects that I had no clue about. Like, you can read all of the books, you can watch all of the videos, you can hear like everyone's stories and experiences. You can take all like the birth classes and newborn end of the day, like, you're thrown into it and you kind of have to, figure it out along the way. I think, like, honestly, the biggest aspect of motherhood for me that I did not consider is how much becoming a mom would make me reflect on my own childhood and my own
Yeah.
relationship with my parents too. That was, like, really life altering for me because prior to becoming a mom, I thought about my childhood and had good memories of it and things, and then it really made me, like, analyze pieces of it a lot more.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot where it just makes you reflect, inward quite a lot on your past experiences. Did you ever feel at some stage that you forgot a bit of you or lost yourself in the transition, or did you find that you still managed to carve out time for you throughout the change?
I think it definitely ebbs and flows, and for me, like, there were periods where I kind of felt myself slipping and, like, not necessarily prioritizing or looking after myself, and then other times where I felt really on top of it, and that's the one thing about becoming a mom, especially when you have a baby or a toddler, is they change every day, their needs and requirements change every day, and so for me, just really being able to, like, ride that wave and the ebbs and flows without letting it, like, completely, ruin my day or something if I wasn't to getting certain things done, I think is really important, and this is one thing that I always talk about with my clients who are moms is we have the incredible ability to, like, pivot and adjust
Mhm.
and be flexible, which is something that I didn't have previous to becoming a mom, like, not to the level that I have now. And
Yeah,
so recognizing that, like, yeah, some days you're gonna have to adjust your schedule, maybe move things to another day, or things aren't gonna look the exact same way that they want to look. But I think as long as you're still, like, taking those little steps to look after yourself, then those things do compound. Um, Day after day, but for me personally, I do think it helped, obviously, that I am and was passionate about my health and fitness prior to
mhm.
becoming a mom, and I will say that it is something that there were days that I, like, clung to that, right? Like, my daily
Yeah,
walk is my sanity, get
yeah,
a quick workout in during nap time or whatever, things like that.
yeah. You talked there about the ebbs and flows in motherhood and how you find you're now much better at pivoting. What do you think helped you get there?
I think just letting go of certain expectations of what the day is going to look like. And I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who is pretty type A, pretty organized. Like, I
Yeah.
have my little planner, I have my list of things to do every day. And so that's one thing that was just a challenge for me
Mhm.
was like I was so used to just being able to check things off as I went on throughout the day. And so I think just having that mindset of like consistent efforts matters so much more than having perfection and like striving and aiming for that perfection
Yeah,
and recognizing that like the reality is even if you get 60% of, like, what you want to do for the day done or something like that, that's still a passing grade, right? So
yeah,
and having that mindset, I think, really helped me.
yeah, adjusting your expectations is huge, and I think we tend to put the bar way too high as moms, especially if we were very high achieving moms before they came, and then this tornado comes in and you're like, "Okay, I have to reflect and change the way I'm approaching this or else everything's gonna crumble."
Yes, 100%.
Um, how did you find the transition to motherhood affected your relationships, say, with your partner or friends or family members?
I would say in terms of family members, it made me a lot closer to my family members because that's when I did like welcome in more people to create more of a village, right? And there's always
Mhm,
that saying like it takes a village. And I will say that villages these days they do look a lot different than they did like decades and decades ago. However, I think that it drew a lot of my family in and we did become a lot closer and just seeing like my parents become grandparents and like want to be involved grandparents was really cool as well. And then I think for friendships, to be honest, like I already had a pretty close circle of friends just because when I transitioned into bodybuilding and competing, I did lose a lot of friends.
mhm,
That just from people who the lifestyle didn't really align or they didn't understand or something like that. So I already had a pretty good circle of friends. And I would say that in terms of friendships, it really was just a matter of making time, the friends that made the time to, like, come have coffee or ask to go
mhm.
walk or something like that, that honestly makes a world of difference when you are a new mom because you can feel quite isolated. And then I would say a lot of my friends also just were empathetic and understanding of the fact that, as a mom, you only have so much capacity to do certain things. So,
Mhm.
like, not taking it personally if I didn't reply to their text message for 4
Yeah.
days or, something like that, just being understanding.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I just think with my partner, it was just like it kind of amplified the need for good communication, which I think we already had like a pretty good grasp of. But obviously, when you become a parent, there's a lot of different kind of variables and factors going on. And so just
Mhm.
maintaining that good communication was really important too.
Mhm. Did you find that the pandemic made things more difficult? Or because I've heard some people have told me it made their family life a lot harder. Others have told me it actually allowed them to connect more.
Yeah, I think it probably led us to connect more. So, my partner, he works shift work. And so, when he's on shift, he's away for 15 hours a day, 4 days on, 4 days off. So, to have him home for like a little bit longer during the pandemic, like that little period of time, the whole entire world shut down, that was honestly really cool for us because we haven't, except unless he was on like vacation or something, we never really had the opportunity to spend that time just like at home together. And then I do think that it also allowed a little bit for us to stay in that newborn bubble for a little bit
Bit
longer,
longer.
if that makes sense. So our daughter was born in September of 2020. So
Mhm.
it was kind of still in the height uh,
Yeah.
of the pandemic. And we definitely were a little bit more cautious in terms of where we went and things that we did. I think just as first time parents and kind of the unknown and things like that. So we did end up spending like a lot of time together, and my
Mhm.
did take some paternity leave for that as well. So I would say that it did just make us a lot closer during
Interesting.
that time. Yeah.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel, particularly as someone who's been in the fitness industry where appearance does matter quite a lot, do you feel a lot of pressure to be a certain mother or look a certain way?
I think I used to. And I do think that motherhood actually helped me kind of lose that pressure that I put on myself because prior to becoming a mom, like with competing, I was quite lean and it is really hard like seeing yourself go to that low of body fat percentage and something that like internally is not sustainable and not healthy, but that doesn't necessarily make it any easier to kind of see yourself regaining weight back after the fact or something. And so I do think like throughout pregnancy and postpartum, it gave me a whole new appreciation for my body. And I do just think back to like the message that I wanted to provide to my audience and to my clients. And I always like say this to myself, but how would I speak to a client if they were coming to
Yeah.
me with these feelings or these issues, right? And I do think that I hold myself to a certain standard as a health and fitness coach because I do need to be a role model and things like that. But within my coaching realm, I also don't tell my clients that they need to be perfect. I don't tell them that they need to be 100% and they can't stray away from their nutrition program or they can never miss a workout or something like that. So, just bringing that into kind of my own health and fitness journey is really important too. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can often be our own harshest critic.
Yes.
We'll hold ourselves up here and then be really compassionate for everybody around us by ourselves. And particularly in your industry, in the coaching, it probably took some self reflection to be like, why am I putting myself in a different space?
100%.
Did you find it hard to carve out that space? You mentioned that like you really held on to those walks every day or those little workouts. Is that something that came naturally to you, or that took some time to set up?
So I would say it did come fairly naturally to me, but I did put in the efforts prior to ensure that I had those systems in place, right? So I do actually have a lot of women come to me when they are considering starting a family within the next year or even the next few years or something like that, which I think is honestly so smart because
Mhm.
want to build a solid foundation. They want to form healthy habits and routines, get their systems in place to be able to facilitate health and fitness within their household and family before they've even started a family, which I think is really smart because once you become a mom, like even pregnancy, all women respond differently to pregnancy. every postpartum journey is different and things like that, and it can completely rock your world, and you really don't know how that's going to be until it happens. And so for me, especially during my pregnancy, like I was out walking every single day. I was hitting my step goal. I was getting my workouts in. And, this was during the pandemic. So we had kind of a makeshift home gym and I was getting my workouts done there. I think I did just have those habits formed already.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, newly postpartum, I did have 2 C-sections. I wasn't out going for walks or anything like that, like, it was a
I
gradual.
hope not.
No, I definitely wasn't. It was, like, a very gradual thing. I remember my first walk was, like, to the mailbox and back, so just, like, really, understanding, like, how good those things made me feel. That was kind of a driving factor in terms of me maintaining them afterwards as well.
How did you navigate carving out the time then for you to have alone time? Who in your circle helped you have that time so you could go away by yourself, do those walks, have that space to just be you?
Yeah. That was something that definitely came a little bit later for me, and I do think it's just because I am naturally a more, like, controlling person, and it wasn't something that I was doing out of, like, lack of trust for those around me. It honestly was just more so out of, like, fear and me wanting to kind of control the whole situation. So, there definitely were a lot of periods and seasons when I was in mother wouldn't ask for help, and I would try to bear the load and bear the weight of everything. And then I definitely realized kind of like the negative effects of that on my mental health and things like that. And so that's really where I made the decision to like reach out and ask for help. And like it was always easy for me to ask my partner to,
Mhm.
girls or watch the baby so I can go for a walk or do a workout or something like that. Just in terms of, having a little bit more capacity, it took a little bit of a push for me to ask for help for sure.
What do you think were the mental blocks of asking for help?
I think that I don't know, for some reason, I think I intrinsically felt like I had to be, like, doing more and doing
Mhm.
the most and, like, almost, like, maintaining uh, that I have everything under control and
Yeah.
everything is fine and everything is good,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you're like, "No, actually, I do need a little bit of help. I do need
Yeah.
a bit of support as well," right?
Yeah. And you mentioned that when you were trying to do it all, you felt it affect your mental health. What did you recognize in you that was like, "Oh, okay, I need to change something?"
So for me, because I didn't take maternity leave with either of my girls, so I was still balancing working from home with them, it got to a point where I woke up and I had to do things like at certain times.
Mhm.
I didn't get them done, it would throw off the whole day, and then it would be like 10 p.m. at night, and I'm glued to my desk finishing
Mhm.
work for the day or something like that. And so I found that I was, like, not having that flexibility, and it was almost giving me anxiety, like, waking up and being like, "I have to go for a walk at this time, I have to do this at this time, I have to get, like, all of this stuff done when they're napping." So then if they didn't nap, which, like, sometimes kids decide they don't
Yeah,
wanna
you just
nap,
don't.
then
Yeah.
just threw off, like, the entire system and the entire day, and it was almost making me feel just, like, anxious about the end of the day because the list of things that I had to do, like, work-wise and things like that were just piling up, right?
Yeah, so you kinda could feel that pressure building throughout the day.
Yeah.
Super. Do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share? You mentioned that you're working with mothers or women that are hoping to become mothers that you have found has helped those in your circle.
I do think it comes back to just managing expectation. And what I like to do with my like to-do list now is like must do,
Mhm.
nice to do.
Mhm.
And if I get to it today, great. If it has to move to tomorrow until the next day, that is totally fine, right? So trying to keep things really realistic in terms of what you need to do on a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis. And then I also think that planning and preparation is very, very important. So, like, for example, one thing that I talk about a lot with my clients is the importance of meal prep and planning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to look like preparing your little Tupperware containers of every single meal. Like a lot of people kind of have misconceptions about what it needs to look like. Basically, just needs to look like having some food in your fridge that you know you can make cohesive meals with. If you know you're going to be leaving the house for a period of time, making sure that you have some meals planned and prepped and prepared with you. So I think that that goes a really long way, especially in motherhood when we're so used to pouring into our kids, pouring into, everyone and everything else around us.
Mhm.
Sometimes we can get forgotten, and a lot of the moms that come to me, they aren't fueling and nourishing their bodies properly, and it kind of creates like a waterfall of negative effects. So I do
Yeah.
think like planning, preparation as much as you can, even if it's just a little bit. And then I also think that there's just a lot of guilt surrounding taking time for themselves. And so for me, it really took recognizing that, when I took time for myself, when I take time for myself to get a workout in, to go for a walk, to clean the space around me,
Yeah.
or to go meet up with a friend without my kids so that I can actually have a face-to-face conversation with them, right? Doing little things like that, it actually allows me to come into motherhood being a lot more present and being able to be focused and things like that as well. So I would say like you should never feel guilty about taking time for yourself or looking after yourself because it's only going to benefit everybody else around you.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. And I think I went through a similar process where you just feel this guilt. But then when you do start to carve out space for yourself, you enjoy motherhood so much more. You enjoy the time with them because you filled your own cup of tea.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all of that. I want to finish with a quote that you wrote because I really liked what you sent just for other women to hear. So it's a quote from Tory Burch. And she says, as a working mother, I know that women can be both professionally ambitious and deeply committed to their family. And I can see now after chatting to you why that resonates so much with you. You are clearly passionate about your work, passionate about your family, and you've really carved out some tools to help navigate the shift and the ebbs and flows of daily life. So I'm sure that today's episode will resonate with a lot of the listeners and probably help a lot of moms just carve out a few tools to make things easier. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
The information shared on the Get Your Pink Back Project podcast is for educational and general informational purposes only. Although I am a medical doctor, I am not providing medical, psychological, or professional advice specific to you or any individual. This podcast does not establish a physician-patient relationship, and the content should not be used as a substitute for personalized medical care, mental health support, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your own physician, mental health professional, or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding your health or well-being. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might need it. And if you feel called, leave a rating or review. It helps grow this community. Remember, you are not lost, you are becoming. I'll see you next time on the Get Your Pink Back Project podcast.